Hello and welcome to this edition of EB-5 Investment Report. I'm Dwight Cromie. I was able to sit down and speak with Dan Stephenson, founder and chairman of the Rancon Group, a real estate development company in Murrieta, California. Recently, the Rancon Group sought USCIS designation as an EB-5 regional center. Their first EB-5 offering, Europa Village, is a large winery resort located in Temecula's wine country and is projected to create over 1,000 jobs. For our viewers, we wanted to do a report that Rancon was founded in 1971 and that you're the area's most successful real estate company and the Inland Empire's leading developer. Could you tell me a little bit more about your story?
Sure. Came out here and actually bought land out here in 1968 because I was a strong believer that LA and San Diego would grow together and this is a good place to invest. Particularly picked this spot because it was at 50 miles of the coast and I believed 95% of the people in the world live within 50 miles of the coast. And at the time, Kaiser Aetna, two of the largest corporations in America, had bought an 87,500 acre cattle ranch, and I figured they'd jumpstart the development out here, and that's exactly what they did. So I made an investment. At the time I was a banker, going to night school, getting my MBA at USC. As luck would have it, I decided to leave banking in 1969 and applied for a job, and Cole Banker hired me as their finance director, office manager of their new division, which was representing Kaiser and Aetna in selling Rancho California. So did that for a while, decided to get involved in the sales aspect of it for the pure reason the salesmen were making a lot more money than I was making in the management side of it. Did that for about a year and started putting some partnerships together. And come 1971, I decided to do it on my own, and we started Rancon really for the purpose of buying, developing, and syndicating property in Southwest Riverside County, back then called Rancho California. And here I am 40 some odd years later doing the exact same thing and having just as much fun.
Earlier, we had talked to Jeff Comanchero, who leads up the Rancon EB-5 Center. Can you tell me, do you have any role or any part of the EB-5 Regional Center?
Sure, I put money in it. You know what, Jeff and I are a great team. I'm sort of the visionary and let's charge forward, and he crosses T's, dot I's, and manages all the operations we have for the Rancon Group. And when we decided to do the EB-5, because we felt it would take someone that spent a lot of time understanding the T's and dotting the I's of that particular business, and he sort of had a passion for doing that, and really it has made it his specific project. So other than going out and talking to different people that had done EB-5 programs, so we had a good feel for it, meeting with some potential foreign investors or companies that help solicit funds from foreign investors, he's really done all the technical part of it from the beginning to the end. So I'll be involved in some of the projects that the capital comes in to develop, which would be my expertise. But for the EB-5 program, he's our local expert.
Dan, it's our understanding that from the information we obtained from Jeff and from your website, that Rancon is planning, appears to be a speculatory winery resort in Murrieta, is it?
Temecula wine country.
Temecula wine country. Can you tell us a little bit about your plans for the winery and where it's headed?
I don't know how familiar you are with the wine country in Temecula, but it is probably one of the fastest growing wine regions in the world. Exploding. It's gone from about 15 wineries 15 years ago to today about 35, 36 wineries. All doing exceptionally well, even in this horrible depression or recession we've just gone through. So it's real exciting. Fortunately for the Temecula wine country, our government agencies, which is the County of Riverside, allows us to have hospitality. So in addition to vineyards and wineries, we're allowed to have restaurants and weddings and corporate events and retail sales. So it's made it a real viable economic base as a result of that. At Europa Village, we plan on doing exactly what it says. We're going to build a European village, frankly, that's going to be a wow, I mean, across the world. And literally, you're going to walk or drive into the cul-de-sac, and on the left, you're going to see this beautiful Spanish winery, and on the right, a French winery, and up the hill, you'll see this beautiful Italian winery, and you'll be able to walk from one part of Europe to the next. And then on top of the hill, we have El Sonio, which is our 40-unit country inn, which will have swimming pool and spas and a complex that, not that Temecula is already up in the headlights, but that'll just take it one step further.
From what I understand, you've raised approximately, or needed approximately $12 million in private equity for the winery. Have you any open equity left, or is it all been filled?
Well, we've raised about $10.5 million of our original $12 million goal. And we do have a few investors that join us every once in a while, and be more than happy to talk some of if they qualify for these kinds of investments.
So are you still seeking EB-5 funding as some of those spots available?
Not for the equity investors. The EB-5 really is going to be the capital that builds the buildings themselves.
Okay, so it's more the loan model?
Yes, it is. The EB-5 is the loan model.
It's our understanding that last October, Rancon Group filed an application to obtain your EB-5 Regional Center designation under the USCIS. Has that approval gone forward, or are you now an official EB-5 Regional Center?
I wished I could say yes to answer that question. We filed it, I believe it was last August. We were told it would take about 9 months to get that approved, which means next July. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that 9 months is the time frame we're going to work within, but it will be when it will be. So we do have the right counsel. We've hired the right consultants, and we're on top of it. So it's just a matter of how quick it goes through the system.
Once you become an official EB-5 Regional Center, what will your role be then? Will it change, or will it be the same as it is now?
Once we get it approved, I will spend a little bit of time working with Jeff, probably going to some foreign countries just to meet with the marketing organization, because that's one of my expertise. Certainly get more involved in looking at projects. Right now our first project was the Europa Village, but once we get this approved, our goal will be to do other projects, and so I will be part of the acquisition and due diligence team finding the right kinds of projects.
Have you, or are you concerned with the fees that the Chinese brokers are offering? We've been told that those fees have been pretty exorbitant and really not justified. Are you aware of that, or do you have any concerns about that in the future?
Well, you'd have to describe what you think fees they've been charging. I've been in the syndication business most all of my life. Used to do a lot of large SEC public programs, and to raise capital on a mass distribution is expensive. I know when I first started doing it back in 1976, literally 25% of the capital raised went to a variety of between legal, accounting, security brokers fees, and what have you. As time went on, that number went down to 20%. Today, when we do our small Reg D syndicate offers, raising capital through passive investors in America, the fees now are down to about 12 or 13%. So I'm not sure the fees are much greater than that from what I've heard. So I guess my answer is it's not a major concern to me. But
I mean, you're one of the leading developers. Everybody kind of looks towards you. What was the need for EB-5 funding?
Need for EB-5 funding was based upon two different reasons in my mind. Number one, the lack of bank financing right now, availability of capital, where EB-5 is a new source of funds where there has been capital flowing into America, especially for development real estate projects. The banks have just shut off doing real estate development basically around the country. Now that will cycle back over the next couple of 2 or 3 or 4 years, and as it does, the need for EB-5 money will start to diminish. Second, in our particular case, I wanted to do Europa Village. I think it's a magnificent project. The attractiveness of a relatively low interest rate and no carrying cost for the first 4 or 5 years was very attractive to a brand new startup winery such as Europa Village is planned to be.
Can you elaborate on the jobs that the Europa will create? What type of jobs will those be?
As far as Europa Village, one of the reasons Europa Village fits with the EB-5 program is because we do generate a lot of jobs, both because of the winemaking, the hospitality aspect of it, the weddings, the wine tasting, and the people that work in the wine tasting rooms, just the retail sales and components. So we were required to hire a professional economist that specializes in job count, that meets the federal government requirements, and this kind of operation fits perfectly into what the government's trying to accomplish.
Based on your long-term experience as a developer, how important is it for Region Center developers to provide accurate facts to their investors?
I started this company working with investors. The first transaction I ever made was putting a syndicate together where I had 10 investors. By the mid-1980s, we became the largest syndicator in the United States with doing land syndications with 65,000 investors. I excel at investor communications. Everybody in this company realizes that we work for them, not ourselves. And if you have that attitude, you do fine on yourself. It's not that we're stupid, but the emphasis is back towards the investors. Yeah, and I think as people moved into the EB-5 program, where people did not do near the due diligence, maybe on the marketing side of it, maybe on the development side, maybe how they handled the flow of funds, you probably didn't get people with quite the experience you needed to have. We're not interested in dealing with brokers in China or wherever that are charging exorbitant fees, if that's what they're actually doing. And we're certainly highly motivated to make sure they get in projects that are sound and they're managed with professionalism. And one of the things I sell real hard, and it's absolutely true, we've been doing the same thing in the same place for 42 years, and we've gotten real good, not only at what we do, but we know the right consultants to hire, we know the government and what the rules and regulations are, and we can solve a problem if it pops up, and they do pop up, because everything we've done for the last 42 years are within driving distance, literally within an hour. And frankly, everything I've done the last 20 years is probably driving distance within 20 minutes of our corporate office. So easy to keep track of what you're doing. So ethics, investor communications is what it's all about.
Dan, can you explain how investors should approach risk? And while every project has inherent risk, how can an investor do their due diligence?
Yeah, I think I'll give you two different answers to that question, and then we'll get specific. Number one, everybody understands when you're buying real estate, it's location, location, location. So find an area, a project that is well located. That's of utmost importance. Secondly, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. You buy people as much, if not more, than you buy things. And so find someone that's been doing it, find someone that has a good reputation, and that has a track record for accomplishing what they say they're doing. So, looking from the real estate and looking from the management behind it, those are your two ingredients.
Can you tell us, why you chose Jeff? What was his unique qualifications to run your EB-5 center?
Well, when I hired Jeff, I was looking for a president, and throughout my life in hiring various presidents, I always looked for someone that was a good manager, a good detail person, a good ethical person, and not necessarily they have to have development experience or land development or entitle experience or securities business what I was in. You really look for someone that had strong management talents, and Jeff fit that category in spades. And when he first started, he was really just on a consultant basis because I wanted to take one step at a time, as did he. Originally, he was a council member of Temecula, so he had a lot of experience in large master planning and had a great reputation in the city. And frankly, when he joined here, it was sort of the understanding that he would no longer be a council member. Shortly after that, when he went back there to decide to resign from council, they talked him into staying because they really liked him, and we sort of made a deal that I wouldn't talk about Temecula politics and wouldn't do anything in the town of Temecula, and so he's able to keep that position, and this worked out very well. But as a manager, he's fantastic. Now he's been with me, I don't know how many years, 12, 13, 14 years. Now he's real good at development, so he's learned those skills during that time frame. So I got the best of both worlds.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with me and tell me your stories.
Well, thank you.
The Rancon Group has a long history of developing projects in southwest Riverside County. Their business has expanded from building master plan communities to making wine. But the economic crisis of 2008 slowed down Rancon's quest to build Europa Village, and the EB-5 program seemed like the right solution to obtain the equity loan to continue development of their winery. I'm Dwight Cromie, and I want to thank you for watching this edition of EB-5 Investment Report.